Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, viewers. I'm Matthias Ofiku, news editor of the Namibian Sun newspaper. Welcome to another edition of the Evening Review Show. Before we get into the matters of the night, let's have a look at tomorrow's headlines. Well, we start off with AgriBizDev, a report on the debts that are facing the company. Also, the avian influenza outbreak. There's warning that it might affect human beings. Also, the uranium in southern Namibia, the fight continues whether uranium mining should take place there. Well, we're joined in the studio tonight by Mr. Tarah Shaanika. Of course, he's the head of Namibia Asset Management in Namibia, but tonight we want his former position as the CEO of the Namibia Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. Well, Namibians have been in the recent days, of course, discussing the news of the passing of businessman Mr. John Endjala, well known as Akapandi in the business circles. Well, what is the euphoria all about this man? There are some who are saying, what is it all about? Who is he? And so on.
Well, I must say that John Endjala was not an ordinary Namibian. He was really extraordinary in many respects. He was a successful businessman. He successfully established a number of business entities that employed a lot of Namibians. He made a huge contribution to entrepreneurship development in the country in general, but also to the Namibian economy. He was highly talented and very good at business. He enjoyed doing business, and he was entrepreneur naturally. He is not somebody who did business out of needs, because he wanted to get out of poverty or anything. You could see that was his calling. He really loved running after deals and doing business. Yeah. And he had an eye for business. He saw business opportunities where others could not see. Yeah. So because of the talent that he had, despite his poor educational background, he excelled amazingly, and because of that, he was really extraordinary. Yeah. And he deserved such recognition by the Namibian people. Yeah.
Of course, we hear of a lot of especially upcoming businessmen who complain that there's not much scope for entrepreneurship, and the system doesn't really allow for it. And you credit him for that. How did he manage and navigate through these stormy waters?
He was very tough. He was tough. As I said, he used his business talents, which were really natural. They came natural. And he, as you can see, he saw opportunities everywhere. And therefore, he was involved in business activities in almost all the sectors of the Namibian economy, from tourism to hospitality, to retail, to property development. He was involved in farming, agriculture, and food processing. So he really was seeing opportunities everywhere where few people could see, and therefore he was different from many of us. Yeah. And he could see that although somehow you find that it's very difficult for the system in Namibia to produce a lot of entrepreneurs, there's always going to be those talented ones who will emerge successful.
Yeah. But why is it so difficult for the system to churn out entrepreneurs? What do you think are some of the bottlenecks?
I think there are many things. You need to be a pusher. You know, let me just maybe speak a little bit more about Akapandi, about what could have made him also successful and different from others. He was very good at networking. He networked with anybody. He had very good self-confidence. As I said, he was not really an educated person. He didn't go to school, to universities and so on.
Yeah.
But he did far better than those of us who had opportunities in education. And I think we don't have so many like him.
Yeah.
And because but we could still produce a number of entrepreneurs who may not be as talented as Akapandi, who may not have good networking abilities like him. If we could make it a lot easier for entrepreneurs to pursue their dreams. At the moment, you find that you have issues of bureaucracy, which is one of the biggest challenges facing entrepreneurship in Namibia. The bureaucracy needs to be improved. The way we deal with permits, business permits, or permits that would allow somebody to implement your business ideas need to be improved. Yeah. We also have challenges of market access. The market in Namibia is too small. We need to access markets outside Namibia. We have markets in our neighborhoods, Angola, DRC is not far, Zambia, Zimbabwe, South Africa. These markets need to be explored, and hopefully our business people will be able to penetrate. That require some special efforts to be made by both government and private sector, so that these markets can become markets for our business people.
Yeah. And of course, during your time at the NCCI, he also served on the structures of the chamber. What was he like during those meetings and so on, in terms of proposals as to what direction the chamber should follow?
Well, he started as a director on the board, but when our former Vice President Lazarus Ipangelwa passed on, Akapandi he replaced Ipangelwa as first Vice President of NCCI under Madam Inge Dhamani Kamwe, who was president that time. Yeah. And when the term of Ms. Dhamani Kamwe ended, Akapandi then assumed the leadership role at the NCCI as president. He was in fact the first to have a presidential contest within the NCCI. It has always been some sort of a consensus about the succession of NCCI. So he faced competition within the chamber, and business people elected him. Yeah. When he was on the board and he became president, his contribution at the board level has always been different, in the sense that he was entrepreneur by excellence. He brought ideas that are not common, and arguments that are not common in the corporate world. He didn't see any obstacle to any idea. At one point in some of our public-private sector engagement, he proposed that maybe instead of banks wanting business plans from business people, they should rather interview business people instead of having a business plan written. Because what happens is that entrepreneurs who don't know how to write business plans will go to consultants, give the consultants their ideas, and consultants sometimes they spice this business up, hoping that it will appeal better to a banker. In most cases, these business plans are rejected by bankers. They are found to be viable. But he felt that if entrepreneurs are given an opportunity to tell the banker what they want to do instead of writing it down, the banker will understand their story better. Yeah. And therefore, they will implement their business plan, not the consultant's business plan. Such ideas were of course, are not embraced by the banking sector, but such ideas are actually good ideas, because in most cases, business plans that are written by others may look appealing, but when the business person starts implementing his idea, he will implement it the way he or she conceived it. He was really, he had a lot of contribution to make. When he became president in 2008. That was the time, because we have an association of SADC chambers of commerce and industry called ASCI.
Yeah.
And we have a rotational leadership where each chamber is given 2 to 4 years to, mostly 2 years to lead. When there was a chance for NCCI to lead the chamber, it coincided with Akapandi's presidency. And when he became president, in fact, the first Namibian to hold that office, he pushed the agenda of economic integration. He hosted meetings of presidents of chambers within the region to come together. In fact, the first meeting was here in Windhoek. The second one, he hosted it in Johannesburg as president of ASCI to bring chambers closer together within the region. Yeah. Because he saw that we can have very nice economic integration policies at SADC level, but if business people are not involved for them to see the opportunities in this arrangement, such policies will be futile, they will not work. And so he pushed that, that agenda of bringing business closer to each other. They must communicate to each other. Yeah. They must share notes. And that was very helpful. I think it must have impacted on intra-regional trade and business activities within SADC. Yeah. He was very visionary. He saw a lot of things that you couldn't see. You could see far than most of us.
Yeah. So you were quoted one of the local dailies saying, in terms of socio-economic upliftment, he contributed vastly in that regard. What exactly were you referring to?
Well, you know, he started his business at very low level. He started selling food and meat in Ranyamund. If you follow his story, and then he moved to Windhoek. But because he experienced the life of an SME operator, he could understand better what small businesses are going through, and black business in particular. You would recall that he was president of the then, I think it would be called Indigenous People's Business Forum. He was, I think, the first president there. And his idea was that these people are behind, black business people are behind, because in the 90s, they were when we got independence, they were just really getting to the mainstream of the economy, and they needed special attention. And because of that, he, together with others, pushed for the establishment of that body, and he became president. He then contributed to the establishment of small businesses throughout the country. He had no attachment to any region in Namibia. He supported businesses throughout Namibia in all the regions of the country. And he empowered others, gave others opportunities. And in fact, there are times, which I recall, where he risked his own business so that others can survive, so that others can pull through. And he would partner with small business on a particular venture and put it together so he can support this small business. So in many respects, he was very instrumental in contributing to socio-economic upliftment. But naturally, as a person, he is also a very generous person. He would give a lot, he would contribute a lot. There are times when he went into rural areas and contributed resources and time and so on so that he can support specific groups of people. I invited him one year to support special programs aimed at supporting the San community in our area. He didn't come himself personally, but he contributed through resources. But this is just one of the stories that I'm sure many Namibians will tell about him contributing this or that project, supporting vulnerable people in Namibia. He had a very sore heart very soft heart for vulnerable people in the society.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier on his involvement in the tourism and hospitality sectors. Of course, sectors that are largely seen as white dominated areas. How did he find that? We've seen a lot of big black businesses trying to venture into those areas but struggling.
Yeah, many black businesses have been struggling. There are a few that have successfully penetrated into the tourism and hospitality sector. He somehow found a way of getting himself in the sector, building a number of ventures that were in that sector, including hotels and lodges and tourism organizations that he led. And he, in fact, out of his group, if I recall well, out of the JNP group, he had a specific subsidiary that was just focusing on tourism, and he established a number of establishments. Most of them are still working. These establishments are now used by not only tourists but also people that are in conferencing, for example. So he managed to get through, and I think it's because of his talents in entrepreneurship.
Yeah. I know during your time at the NCCI, well, one of your babies was the push to ensure that black businesses, they are indeed generational businesses. You've mentioned now how Akapandi, of course, created businesses which you think would then live on beyond him. How do we then transform that to other black-owned businesses to ensure that they live beyond the owners or the founders?
I think it will come with time. You can't divorce business from our traditions and cultures. The cultural beliefs and norms influence also the way we do business and the way our businesses are structured. And in the past, in most black communities, especially those with matrilineal, how do you call it, lineage, they have this inheritance problem where when a man passes on, the sisters and brothers and some nephews from his sister's offsprings, they tend to inherit his wealth. And in most cases, this wealth is distributed among people, and it's not managed as in one entity anymore. So that used to be a big problem for a lot of black business people. And I think that is changing now. Those traditional and cultural norms are changing, where your nucleus family is taking charge. And I think that will help, hopefully, black business people to also begin to build institutions and entities that will outlive them and will run even after they have passed on. And Mr. Endjala believed very much in that, in creating institutions that outlive you. He believed in leaving a legacy behind when one passes on. It's really unfortunate that he passed on at that young age. He was still very young, still energetic, could still contribute. But of course, everybody has your time on earth. And I'm sure he has done what he was called to do. But hopefully the legacy will continue.
Yeah. During our conversation earlier on, we still spoke about the issues of market access, the issues of permits, the bureaucracy, and so on. Where are we getting it wrong in the system? What do you think is the challenge?
I think this is a challenge that was identified some time ago. And I remember when I was at the chamber, we spoke a lot about the one-stop center for investors, for businesses, which I hope will now be implemented by the new board. And I hope they will push that really hard so that can unlock opportunities. because at the moment you still find it difficult to even register a business efficiently.
Yeah.
It still takes time and a lot of efforts to register a business. Just as an example, we still have challenges with work permits for skills that we have in shortage in Namibia. We still have challenges in getting certain permits that we might require to do business. Sometimes it takes long. We don't get approvals as fast as possible. We still have a huge challenge regarding access to land. For you to do business, you need to have a piece of land where you establish your business. Yeah. If you go to any local authority in Namibia today and you say, I want to establish business quickly this month, you will not be able to get that piece of land. And we don't expect investors, especially even if you're a Namibian, whether you're foreign or Namibian, you don't expect investors to always own land before they conceive their ideas. Yeah. If an idea comes today and I want to start a business tomorrow, I should have that access, easy access to a piece of land. It's still very difficult. If you apply to the municipality, it will take you 5 years before, sometimes they don't even reply to your letter. That bureaucracy and inefficiency within the local authorities and within the government system needs to be really addressed. Yeah. Otherwise, people have ideas, they can't implement them, and they don't know how to push it as hard as possible, and they just die with ideas.
Yeah, but when you were at the NCCI, I'm sure you had these conversations with lawmakers and so on. But what was the issue? Is it a systemic issue or a human resource issue?
I think it's a system issue. We just need to overhaul the whole system for it to work. And maybe we also have our priorities wrong. You find that there are legislation which we in business feel are urgent and should be passed by lawmakers. But these legislations take forever. Yeah. We still don't have an investment legislation, despite the fact that when that legislation was taken to the National Assembly and signed into law by the President, and the business community complained about the challenges that was with that legislation, and we agreed to review that legislation. I still remember having endless meetings, maybe a year or two before I left the chamber, and I have been away for four years now, discussing that legislation. Up to now, it's not passed. But you see some legislation going very quickly in the National Assembly. So it is just a question of us having wrong priorities. And if it has political benefits, it's quick. Yeah. If it has economic benefit, or for us, we need to, maybe I need to be convinced that it's difficult to come up with a legislation that can be accepted by all members of the National Assembly. And sometimes it goes to, so the drafting of legislation, that process needs to be improved. And if you don't improve there, and the system is overhauled so that the system works faster. When you see an application from a business that want to establish a business, and you know that we have Namibians unemployed on the street, we need to employ them as quickly as possible. This person is saying, I'm going to employ 30 people. Help this person so the 30 people can get jobs. So we move people out of the street one by one. But we can only do that if we are really committed that when I work in the government, I'm not doing anybody a favor. I'm here to provide a service. And that culture is not only in government, it's in the private sector. Maybe it's even worse in the private sector. You go to a restaurant, you find a person feels like you are doing a favor. But you think, yes, I'm hungry, I want to eat, but I can also go and eat anywhere else. Yeah. So this person must give me a service. The same in government. Yeah. When you are there, you are appointed there. There are many other Namibians who could be appointed in that position. Yeah. And therefore, you are only there because you are advantaged. You are privileged to be there. Yeah. And therefore, you must act as a privileged person. I must provide this service because by providing this service, getting things approved faster, I am also contributing to employment creation of other Namibians who are unemployed, who are not as privileged as I am, who happen to have been employed.
Yeah.
So if we get that culture right and the system is overhauled and people don't have to wait for answers up to 5 years, then we can have a system that can operate efficiently. We'll be able to support more entrepreneurs to start businesses.
Yeah.
And start implementing the ideas they have.
Yeah.
And sometimes, as I said, there must be many people that went to their graves with ideas that could have unlocked opportunities for employment, economic development. We have been growing negatively, registering negative economic growth for a long time, for many years. We need to see that there are ways. I know there are many factors that have led to this, but one of them is just lack of investment. We need to have more and more investment in the economy.
Yeah.
And I think if we can do that, that was the song that my good friend John Endjala used to preach. And I really want us to honor him by just ensuring that we facilitate investments. We encourage people who want to invest, and that we are selfless in providing services to other Namibians and to supporting other Namibians like he was.
Yeah. Mr. Shaanika, thank you very much for your time today.
Most welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.